everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Ignite time.
Hello.
Welcome. What's up, everybody? Excited to be here. I'm going to teach you guys how to write offers, how to receive offers. It's going to be a very in-depth class. Let's make these guys turn. Let's calm them down a little bit. All right. So, how many of you have already written an offer? Hand up? No?
Not me.
Nobody yet? Oh my gosh, this is going to be such a great class for you guys. We're going to go. I'm not even going to use this presentation. Like, I just put this up here so that it would look like a good background, but I'm not even going to use this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how I get from, I showed the property. What do I do right then when they say, I want to make an offer? What's my first step that I go through? But first, I want to ask, are there any specific questions that people have so that I can make sure that I cover it in today's class? I don't want to miss anything, and I want to make sure that you get your questions answered and I'm thorough. So does anybody have any questions off the top of their head that I can write down and make sure that I cover? None? We're free flowing? We're free flowing. Okay, good. Well, then let's go ahead and get it done. I'm going to get out of this. Oh, I don't even know how to get out of here. Oh, exit slideshow. There we go. Okay. So number one, I went to the house, I showed the buyer property, and they have said, we want to write an offer on this house. And I say, okay, great. I need to go back to my computer. I need to run comparables on the property. I need to ask the listing agent some questions and get everything gathered up. If you haven't already, you're going to ask them to email over to you their pre-approval letter and proof of funds for their down payment and closing costs. So you need two things to write an offer. You cannot write an offer without them. And when I say you can't, I mean, technically you can, but no one's going to take you seriously unless you have a pre-approval letter and proof of funds. The pre-approval letter means nothing unless they have money in the bank. And I'll tell you guys right now, lenders will absolutely provide a pre-approval letter when people have $0 in the bank, because having money in the bank is actually not a condition of the loan. It's not a condition of the contract either. So say that you have a buyer, they got pre-approved for $300,000, but they actually don't have the down payment or the closing costs. The bank will still issue the pre-approval because the money is inconsequential. They just won't be able to close on a loan without it, right? But the buyer can find it from many different sources. So, and in a loan contingency for an offer, there's nothing in there that says that the buyer's down payment and closing costs are a contingency. So like, what does this mean? Say that you get a buyer that gets into a contract on a property and you've never seen their bank account. And they're like, oh yeah, we totally have the down payment. Yeah, we got it. And then they go out and they buy a bunch of stuff and they spend their down payment and they say, oopsie, we spent our down payment. We would like to back out of the sale. Unfortunately, that's not a contingency. Them spending their money when they were supposed to have it for the loan doesn't get them out of it. So they could potentially lose their deposit. So you have to see that they have down payment and closing costs in the bank, guys. So I do that from the very beginning. Like before I ever show homes, I say, okay, I'm going to need closing costs and down payment, or closing costs and down payment proof. And I'm going to need to see your pre-approval letter. And once I have those, we can go look at property. I'm pretty stringent on that. So we're going to say that I have all of that, and now I need to write the offer. So first things first, I'm running comps. You need to run comps on every single property that your client wants to write an offer on. Don't write the offer until you've run the comps, because you may not even know if the property is overpriced. You won't know if it's underpriced. You won't know these things. So first things first, I log into the MLS and I look up the property. And let's say I'm going to be writing an offer on, let's just pick a property and write an offer on it.
Amy, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What would suffice for proof as far as like money in the bank?
Um,
Like what kind of proof are you looking for, or are we looking?
a bank statement, something that shows their name and that they have that amount in the bank. So I need bank name or account name. It could be an investment account. It could be like a Charles Schwab account or something like that.
And like a printout or something?
Yeah, they need to email it to me.
So they email it to us and we email the pre-approval and the bank statement over to the lender agent?
No, the lender is going to pull that directly from the buyer. We're going to include it with our offer when we submit it to the listing agent.
Okay.
But we'll get there.
Okay.
But yes, you'll need a bank statement. It's got to be a statement of some sort that shows the place where they're holding the money, their name, and then their amount. Some people choose to black out their account numbers.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
a certain percentage of funds, like is it was it 1 to 3% or what is it?
They need their whole down payment. So whatever their down payment and closing costs are going to be, they're going to need to have that in the bank. So usually minimum down payment for a conventional loan is 3%. Minimum down payment for an FHA loan is 3.5%. Minimum down payment for conventional, or I already said that. And then closing costs are usually anywhere from 2 to 3% as well. So someone's probably going to need to have about 7% in the bank. So 7% of purchase price. So if you're writing an offer for $620, then you need to have 7% of that in the bank usually. And I can show you how to write in if your buyer needs closing costs. So closing costs are something that I can get the seller to pay for, but not on every house. So sellers pay closing costs all the time. Me and Melinda have put several deals in line in the last 6 months where the seller paid all of our clients' closing costs. So closing costs are one thing. Your down payment is another. Down payment can't come from anybody but yourself or family or down payment assistance. Down payment assistance requires a really good credit score, long job history, but you don't make that much money, right? So it's like single parents and stuff like that. But I've had a single woman, qualify for down payment assistance. You can get down payment assistance twice in a row. It's not actually first-time home buyers. There is no such thing as first-time home buyers, by the way. No such thing. If I sell my house and I have an FHA loan, I can go buy another house with an FHA loan 3.5% down. I can get down payment assistance for that second loan as well. Okay, just keep that in mind. People are going to come to you and say, well, we would like to get some first-time home buyers assistance. That doesn't exist. It's actually never existed. It was just that it used to only be 20% down. And when the crash happened, they wanted to help people get into homes to rebuild the economy. So they lowered the down payment down to 3.5%. They tacked on mortgage insurance to buffer that. So keep that in mind. You're going to want to see proof of funds for that. So if they send you a bank statement and it's got 10 grand in it and you're like, that's not going to cover like a third, that's going to cover a third of this, then you want to say, hey, I need to see the rest of the money. Be diligent in that. Some people will waste your time. It's really weird, but some people will waste your time. Okay, so let's say that I went and showed 1201 Eastern Avenue to my client. So here's the property. I would call the listing agent before I show the property. I already know if there's offers. So first things first, before you show the property, make sure that there are no offers on it. If there are offers on it, you should still show it. Just make sure that you have time to submit. Make sure that the offers aren't out of your client's league. Make sure that you're not going to show this property for no reason or for your client to fall in love and then not get it. So I call the listing agent ahead of time, whether it's vacant or not, and I say, do you have any offers currently? I don't actually call them all the time. I text them. A lot of times people are not going to answer your call. They're going to screen for agents. And so you're an agent, they'd rather talk to clients. So just know that your phone call is going to get screened. So don't just call people, text people. Okay. So I would text Alexis or even Nasim. And I would say, how many offers do you have on the property? None. Okay, great. I have a client who's interested in writing an offer. I would just like to know, what is the seller looking for? And you're probably wondering, well, Amy, how am I going to remember all these questions? And you guys, I created that in the Ignite toolkit. Wouldn't you believe it? If you go into the buyers folder and you click on working with buyers, this tells you how to work buyers. It even tells you how to write, the offer, how to understand the RPA. This is Bruce doing contracts classes, how to get them pre-approved. And then it gives you what offers are on the property. Do you have any current offers? What's the price and terms of those offers? What's the seller looking for? These are your questions. I have a video on running comparables. So if today is not enough for you, you can go here. And then you can fill out the training, fill out the RPA as much as you can, and then I'll review it and we'll go back and do that. So it's here for you in the Ignite toolkit. Let's go back to here. So I text Alexis and I say, hey, do you have any offers? They're like, no, we don't have any offers. I say, okay, great. I have a client that is going to be placing an offer. I would like to know, is there anything specific I need to know that the seller wants to see in an offer? And then they're going to tell you things. Everything is negotiable. So it doesn't really matter what they tell you if your client doesn't want to do it, but it's good to know because you can use some of that as leverage. You know, maybe they say, oh, the seller needs to find another home. So we need you to be okay with them renting the property back for 30 days. Okay, great. Is the seller prepared to pay for the rent back, or are they looking for something for free? So get really curious with them and try to understand what kind of deal can you put together? Because look, if you want to drop the price down to 600, you could say, yeah, we'll drop the price to 600. You can stay in it for a month after close of escrow for free. The seller's going to be like, oh, well, they gave us what we wanted. And that's good, right? So get as much detail from the listing agent as you can. Sometimes they don't answer the phone. Sometimes they only text. Sometimes they never answer your text. Just, you know, get over it. Write the offer, submit the offer. Sometimes agents are just waiting for somebody to submit an offer. They don't want to answer questions because I'll be honest, as a listing agent, I've had people call me and ask me like an insane amount of questions, and I spend all this time on the phone with them, and then the house isn't a fit for their buyer, and I'm like, why did we even do that, right? So just keep that in mind. Some of us are jaded. Some of us have been doing it. So just keep that in mind. They might not answer your questions up front, but if you let them know, I'm trying to write an offer for you, usually they will. Sometimes they'll just wait for you to submit an offer, and then they'll counter you on anything that they want. Always read these private remarks right here. Only agents can see these. These used to be called confidential agent remarks. So if anytime you talk with a listing agent, maybe I would still call them that. So if you called me and you asked me something, I would say, oh, that's actually in the confidential agent remarks. I'm actually talking about the private remarks too. Oh, there it is, confidential agent remarks. Okay, cool. It says for questions, call Nassim. Okay, I should have seen that right away, right? If I read that first, I know I call Nassim, not Alexis. If I call Alexis, she's going to point me to Nazim. For financing options with additional incentives, see lower.com go. So there's some financing stuff, use showing time. We've already seen it. Let's see if there's anything else in here. To check offer status, access necessary buyer signed documents and submit offers, please visit online portal. Oh, well, this means I have to go to this portal. We might have to pick a different property because I'm not writing an open door offer right now. But so say that it was an open door property. You would have to go through this portal and write everything out. I'm not going to do that right now because that would put us into a whole nother realm. So we're going to pick a different property. But if you ever get an open door, it's going to have the same stuff. You're just going to fill out the exact same stuff. You're just going to do it in their portal. But this tells you preferred title company is OSN Escrow. Buyer required to sign affidavit of business disclosure, open door, FHA eligible 1215. Whenever you see FHA eligible 1215, that means that they probably put this house on the market in November. Oof. And that means that the house was flipped recently. So FHA has a 90-day flip rule, meaning that if you buy a property today and you flip it and you've owned it less than 90 days, they will not give you an FHA loan on that property. So you have to own it for 90 days. So it's called a 90-day flip rule, and it only applies to FHA. So basically what they're saying is that they put this on before December 15th and they said by December 15th, we can accept FHA. That has long since passed now. By the way, open door houses are amazing properties to get price reductions on. So if you have a buyer and they're looking, like say that I had a buyer that was looking at 570, 580 right now, I would probably tell them we should put an offer in on this. It's been sitting for 138 days. Okay, let's find a normal property. Let's go here, Sierra Mills. Please be more. Okay, cool, it's normal. All right, so here's the property. I'm talking to Donovan. Donovan says there's no offers on the property and he wants me to include this document. Anytime you see some abbreviations, it's probably a document. Seller is in contract for replacement property already. This means that the seller is selling their property contingent upon them finding another property. So if they don't find another property, they're not moving and your buyer's going to have to find somewhere else to live. So this says the seller's already in contract on another property. We like that. So there's nothing really in here about writing an offer. I always check to see over here if there's any kind of attached documents, because sometimes agents will put disclosures, reports, anything. It'll say documents attached. All right. Okay. So I pull comps one of two ways, or actually, sorry, 2 ways. And I do this on every house, even when I'm searching for a listing. First things first, I click this button that says find comparables. This is my quick and dirty, easy, let me just grab these ones that the computer tells me. So I just click this. It's going to run a search. Oh, it doesn't have anything. So it didn't pick anything for me. So that means that I need to go search for properties myself. So I'm going to hit the back button. And I'm going to take this address. And I'm going to go to searches and click on interactive map search. I'm going to put the address in here. And it's going to find the location with GPS, and then it's going to put it right there. And look, there's my property. Let's move you guys over here. So I can come over here to search criteria, right here in the corner, search criteria, and I need to match the property. Ooh, I forgot what the property dimensions were, so let's go here. I need this one. There. So it is a 3,217,18 square feet. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, I'm going to start filling out the criteria so I can find a comparable that matches this property, right? Because I'm looking for something as close to this as possible. This is a very cookie cutter neighborhood. It looks like everything's pretty much the same, minus a few extra large lots. So I can probably find a model match that sold in the last 6 months to a year. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to find property type, single family home. You cannot compare one to the other. So if there's a single family home, you can't compare it to 2 houses on a lot. You can't compare it to these. So you have to pick one, or I would pick, what is it, right? Actives. So I want to see what else is on the market, but I also really want to see pendings and closed properties. Now it's only going back, what is that, about 90 days? Yeah, 90 days. If I can't find anything, then I'll go back farther in time. If I can't find anything farther back in time, then I'll go wider in area, or vice versa, depending upon what I find. So I'll show you. We don't want to say anything about price because we're trying to determine price based off of size and amenities. So we do bedrooms, which is 3 through 3. Now, the other thing is that you can't compare a 3-bedroom to a 4-bedroom. It's not good to do that. Unless you're in like a rural area where you absolutely cannot find anything else, or the home was overbuilt for the area. So like, have you guys ever seen a property that's like, oh, wow, those people super upgraded that house and it looks different than every other house in the neighborhood? Well, then what you have to do is you have to comp what's normal in the neighborhood and then add to it for value. And sometimes you don't get that much value when a house has been overdeveloped in a neighborhood. So just keep this in mind for your own homes. And when you're talking with clients, houses are actually wind up being worth more when they match the neighborhood better. I hope that makes sense. If it gets too out there and crazy, it actually depletes its value. Bathrooms, it's a 2-bath, so we gotta go 2, 2. Living area, appraisers. So the reason that I do it this way is this is the way that appraisers value properties. This is the way they pull comps, is with these parameters. So you're going to do 150 on either side of the square footage. So this is 1718. So I'm going to take away 150. So what are we looking at? 1550 on one side. We'll just say 1575. I don't know. 1575, and then we'll say 1975. Who knows? It's good enough. I really want to find something between 17 and 1800. That would be perfect. So I'm gonna do that. And that's pretty much it. Then I'll hit close and wait a second and things will pop up. Nothing popped up. Let me back out a little bit. Ooh. Oh, okay. So it looks like this little square right here hasn't seen a lot of sales happening. Now, just outside of it has. It's important to try to note, this is Fair Oaks Boulevard in Ardentown, so Fair Oaks and Watt. Arden Park Vista, like this over here, very, very expensive. This, not so much. So if you try to pull a comp from over here, like that's quite a bit different than this house is listed for 635. So you wouldn't pull this comp and say, oh, well, there's a 1900 square foot property like just over Watt Avenue that's sold for 978. So this must be priced. No, because just over Watt Avenue, completely different neighborhood. So it will behoove you as an agent to go preview property. You don't want to wait to look at properties until your buyers are with you, because then you're not going to know much. So I would say preview properties every week, go to different neighborhoods that you've never been in before, drive down Watt Avenue and go into the different neighborhoods. Watt Avenue is crazy. It goes millionaire properties. It goes all the way from farm properties, millionaire properties, like not that great of properties, industrial, like it has so many different things just down Watt Avenue, right? Okay. So we're looking to find some comp like this, and it's actually hard. So I'm glad that we're doing this. So let's take a look at this one. What's this one say? Okay. So here we have one. It's not that far. It's kind of far. It's just down Morris. It's not that far. I usually like to stay in here, but it feels comparable. Let's see if we can go back in time a little bit farther and find something different. So let's go back here to closed. Let's go to, I'm going to go to September. Now, anything before September is sketchy because that was a completely different market. So let's see what we can, oh, and look. Perfect. Ooh, 476. So this one's 635. Ooh. So let's take a look at this one. And then you guys can tell me if the other one is different. Okay, it's got a pool. Oh, very nice kitchen. It's older, but you know, it's nice. Okay. Nice room. Everything looks pretty clean, right? Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit quicker. We got 29 photos. Okay, this is a nice place. Might have been a little dirty, but it's a nice place. Okay. So then let's go to this other one and try to figure out, like, well, why is this one 476? We got questions, right? That's a pretty big difference, and they're literally across the way from each other. So why is this one different? Let's go take a look. Why do you guys think it's different? What do you see right away?
It's older.
It's older?
Not as
What's the
different style.
Do you guys know that stucco has a functionality? So all of this wood right here gets dry rot and has to be replaced over time. Stucco doesn't. Brick homes are great too. They're actually better because brick doesn't get dry rot. It lasts forever, right? So just that alone, it being a stucco home, it's a little bit worthwhile. Okay, so older, kind of comparable. Backyard, no pool. Not really done. Yeah, this is quite a bit older. Backyard needs to be done. Okay. But is this one's 200,000 more? What do you guys think?
And is that older the home that's sold cheaper? Is there any special remarks on that one?
Oh, let's take a look. Oh, right here. Gorgeous remodel. He said gorgeous remodel. No special remarks. Sold in 33 days. 476,000. Now, what I would start to think to myself is this must be a different neighborhood. It must be different. There's got to be a reason. So, but I would also look at this. This has been on for 24 days. This is a newer home. So I really need to find something over here. Because if I keep searching over here, I might get older properties, right? So you see that comps is not, hey, let me just run comps. It's not a button. It's actually a science to look for a property that matches the criteria. So let's go here. Let's go ahead and go back in time. Let's just see what we can pull from the beginning of the year. Do we get, all right, we get 2. Okay, so let's look, we got 2 right here. So let's zoom in right on the street. This is exactly what I need. Okay, so you can see that these homes are way different than this home. And it's like, those houses are probably a 4-minute drive from each other. What looks like the same neighborhood is not at all. So you can see how understanding and being analytical about the comps that you're pulling is going to be really important. Like you can't just pull comps because it's in a 1/4 square mile. You have to look at them and analyze them to make sure that they're matching, because you really don't want to send that to your client. If I sent this to my client, they would be like, okay, I want to offer 476. And I'd be like, oh no, that's not what I wanted. So I'm going back in time now because it's been really hard for me to find something super close, something that matches. I need it to look like this house. I got 500,000, I got $1 million homes on one side, you know? Okay, so here's this. Let's take a look at this house. Now, I would immediately tell my clients that this was sold in May, which was again, a height of the market. May was insane. So it was listed for 765 and it sold for 770. Obviously, this home has been on the market for 24 days and it's at 635. So this is not meaning that the home is extremely underpriced. We've had a significant drop in value. But this is just to give me an idea, is 630 even in the ballpark? Or should I be offering 500 grand? I hope I'm making sense. This is the longest part of writing an offer, is comping out a property if you can't find a readily available comp nearby. So I look at these and I'm like, all right, well, what makes this one so special? Oh, it's updated, super updated. It's white. This looks really nice. Photographs well. I can understand why at the height of the market, this was just the top sales. Now, oh, that looks nice. Except for that gold. That's kind of cool. Cool. Okay. Fancy pants houses. All right. Oh, they got a putting green. How cute. All right. So Now, what's really funny is that this listing agent probably had a heck of a time getting this priced right because of this house. Could you imagine a seller being like, no, I want that amount, and it doesn't matter what month it is. Okay. So let's take a look at this one. This one sold in August 10th. It was on for 20 days. This is a 2-3, so it's probably got like a den office space. It's only 17 and it sold for $665. But again, that was the height of the market. So $630 might be a viable price. I might actually be able to get them down a little bit. Or, you know, my clients have all their closing costs in the bank, but what if I could get them a credit? You know, I'm going to talk to my clients about this, and I'm going to say, I think $630 is a viable offer. I think you can go a couple different ways if you want to. It's been on the market for 24 days, right? It's been on the market for 24 days. It's listed for $635. I have a comp that sold in August of last year. That's almost a model, almost kind of the same square footage and everything. Sold for $665. So I think the price is okay at $630. I don't think that's an issue, but what I would say is I don't see anything else available. I think there's probably not a lot of buyers at this price point right now. Maybe we go down in price, or maybe we get your closing costs covered. Here's what that means for them. If they get all of their closing costs covered, it saves them money right now. Closing costs on this property $635 times, let's just say 3%, 19 grand. So if I get all of their closing costs covered, say that we offer them $635, but they save $20,000 up front, that's pretty viable, right? Or I can say, well, if you want to offer them 600, we can talk them down in price, but that's a price over 30 years. So it's not really, it just kind of depends on what they want. But I would talk to my clients about that. So let's say that they decide, you know what, Amy, let's go ahead and ask for the credit. I think that would be best for us. We can take the 20,000 and we can keep it, and then we can put in new carpet or do what we want to do to the property. I said, okay, great. That's a great idea. So I'm going to take this listing number here. Oh, sorry, I should say this. One thing that I would do is I would take these properties, and I would probably email this to my client. So I would select the properties that I want to show them, and I want to compare them. I want to compare them to this property. So I want to show them both of these and say, look, this is what has previously sold. This is going to help us in this instance because they're going to say, oh, wow, so the prices have come down already. So they're going to feel much more comfortable about that $630 price. If I could only find properties that were sold for $599, then now we're going into this house is overpriced. You know what I mean? Am I tracking here?
Amy, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Would your pricing strategy, or excuse me, your offer, would it change if you knew that the listing agent was to tell you, oh, we already have 3 offers on the table?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, I'm trying to win. So your ultimate goal is to win the property for your client. If you find out if I find out from the listing agent that there's 3 offers on the property, I would be asking him, where are your offers at? And if I found out there were 3 offers on this property and the nearest comp sold for $665, I'd be looking at my client saying, we're probably not going to get into this property for less than $650. Are you prepared to do that? We might not even get into this property for less than $665. Are you prepared for that?
Have you ever ran into?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Have you ever ran into issues where you found out that the selling agent was dishonest about how much their offers were for? And does that come up ever?
That's illegal. They can lose their license for that. So I take everybody. If they tell me there's multiple offers, I assume they're telling the truth.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't try to yeah. And they're not all going to tell you the details of the offer either. So, I mean, some agents will tell you everything, some won't.
Okay.
But if I was in this instance, say that I call the listing agent and they say we have 3 offers, and I'm like, okay, where are your offers? And they're like, we're not going to tell you. Okay, great. So if my client writes a 650 offer, are we even in the ballpark? No. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. I would go back to my client and I would say, we need to be at 665 most likely in order to win this out. You're not going to get a credit. We're going to need to keep our contingencies tight because we're in competition. Are you prepared for that? Do you want to do that? Or do you want to move on to another property? And then your client will tell you what they want to do. But that's how I would go if it was a competitive situation, but it's not. I mean, right now it's been on for 24 days and the agent's telling me it's not.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. If it was competitive, it would be a different conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I would take all these, so I would check all these and I would say, I would want to email these to my client. So, and you can do it really easily. You can do show hide. I want to see checked only. So now it's only my checked boxes. I can email them and hit submit and email it to them, or I can create a report and pick one of these. I really like one line days on market. This is a really easy way for people to read comps, if it's even going to show me. For some reason, I'm having a hard time looking at PDFs on. I gotta fix my MLS. Never mind. Oh, here we go. This is how you can do it. No, it won't let me open the CMA. Maybe. Let's see here. So I could do CMA. Nope, it won't let me. Oh, here we go. Displays, one line grid. This will show it in a one liner like this. So that way you can see like their information. So, and then you can create a report or a CMA. Please work. It's not working right now. I got to call them and figure out what's wrong. But most of the time it comes up and it's a little report that looks just like this. And it'll show you how many days on market, what's the current list price versus the old list price. And I give that to my client. I'm like, here's the comparables. You can also send them, like the email is great just to send them the full report so that they see all the pictures and everything. Here, I'll show you what that looks like. Client full with additional photos. Submit. I'll send it to myself. So I'll send the client comps and I say, hey, I just sent you comps. Check your inbox. There we go. Oh no, that's not it. Is this it? Oh, this is it. I didn't change the email thing, but I would say comparables for, here, I'll do it again so that you can see what I mean. I would say email. And I would say comparables for the property, which is Sierra Mills. And then send this to myself or send it to them. I would say, hey, I just sent you some comparables. You guys take a look at that. Let me know what you think. Here's what I'm thinking. And I try to do this over the phone. I try to talk to them a lot because I want to hear their voice. I want to know if I want to hear it in their voice. I want to hear what they're thinking, right? But I send them the data. If you don't send comparables to your client and then you write an offer, you are putting yourself in a position to get sued later because you didn't provide them with any market data for the property. And if they overpay, if something happens and they wound up finding out that they overpaid for a property, they will sue you for the difference. And you'll have no trail that says, oh, no. I showed them that property wasn't worth it and they still wanted to pay that amount, right? And so you need to make sure you're doing that. Okay, so this is what it looks like, comparables for Sierra Mills Lane. And this is what your client sees. Oh, here we go. So they can look through all of the data. It's not that beautiful. And they can look at pictures. So that's what they'll see. And then I say, okay, great, let's go ahead and write the offer. So we're gonna write an offer for list price and we're gonna ask for all of the closing cost credits. So I'm gonna take this listing number because when I go to write the offer, it's going to do me a lot of justice. So let's go into car. Car.org is where you're going to get all of your contracts, and they live in this transaction center. So there's a couple ways to get there. You can click on this button up here and you can go to transaction zip forms edition, or you can click on this circle and find it right here. It's exactly the same. So I'll go through the transaction center zip forms edition. I click on wherever, and then I click access zip forms. You have access to this because you paid the Sacramento Association of Realtors, which gave you access to the California Association of Realtors. Bruce is going to go over, Bruce in our contracts classes goes over, and you guys can still, let me make sure you can see what I see. Oh, nope, hold on one second. Let me just do my screen. Okay, cool. So I don't think you could see, it like thinks and it verifies your account, and then it brings up this second screen. You guys will probably see this, but you may see transactions. I live in transactions. Let me see your guys' faces again. There you go.
Hey, Amy, quick question.
Yeah.
The actual software, is that always going to be Lone Wolf that we use?
Yeah.
Lone Wolf?
Yeah. So yeah, this transaction.
Yeah.
It's called Transaction Zip Form Edition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lone Wolf is the company, but
this is the software that
it's the software. You're only ever going to go into it through car. Don't download. There's a download version. Don't download it because California lawyers change our forms all the time. Like every year there's new forms. And if you download Lone Wolf zip forms, you will not get the updates automatically. But if you just go through the website, you will always get the updates. Your forms will be up to date. You'll be good to go. Okay, let's go, Mr. Buyer. So, oh, sorry, let's go from scratch. So in Bruce's contracts classes, he's going to go over all of the logic of the offer, all of the logic of the listing agreement. He's going to go through all of the details. I'm teaching you how to write an offer right now. So, and submit an offer. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking to understand logic and why is the offer like this and what are my rights, and you've got to go to contracts classes. Also, all of you should be receiving a 30, 60, 90 from me, which has all of the links to Bruce's contracts classes for you to watch and learn from. So keep that in mind. The first thing that I do for my buyer is I create a new transaction. This is a purchase transaction. And I'm going to put their name in. So Mr. Buyer, it would be their name. Like maybe I'm buying the house. Let's say Joe Truck. Joe Truck is buying the house. I don't put in the property address because there's a chance that he could miss out on this property and we have to go look for another one. And if I put the property address in here, then now I'm stuck to that property, and I'm going to probably be working with Joe on a couple different houses. So I don't need to put the address in. Now, if it's a listing, you put the address in because the listing is never going to change, right? Okay. So okay, so it's residential and it's active, and I have templates in place that I've put in so that but I'm going to say no templates. No template. And hit save. So it creates, apply the template.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Yeah.
Hey, Amy, that 30, 60, 90 thing you sent out doesn't have any links to it. Mine's completely blank. Is there something that I'm doing wrong?
Yours is complete. Okay, I'll look into it. Can you look into Charles? Oh, can you look into Charles or have Rhea look into Charles Bagley's 30, 60, 90? Yeah. Thank you. He says it's blank. Okay, so it's going to create this transaction here. And then I get to add forms from over here. So click on add forms. And the first thing I need is the residential purchase agreement. I like to use a cover sheet. You don't have to. I use the cover sheet and I use the residential purchase agreement. The cover sheet is for me only. It's for data entry. I don't email this to anybody. I don't send it with my offer. It's just for me. Okay. First things first is I'm going to click on MLS Connect. Remember when I pulled the listing number? Well, here's where it comes in handy. I'm going to enter the listing number here and click on include property photo and then click find. It's going to use my MLS ID and my password to find the property and pull listing data so that I don't have to fill out all the details. When I found this as an agent, it revolutionized my life. Okay. I don't think revolutionized is a word. All right, so let's go to now. Okay, here's the other thing. So you're going to get two options. You're going to get old version and new version. I use the old version because I'm old and I'm used to something. And so that's why I like to use it. So if you call me and you want me to explain something to you over the phone, it's because I'm going to tell you how the old version works. If you're on the new version and you're like, I don't see what you're seeing, then you got to back out and go into the old version because I don't know the new version yet. Just keep that in mind and be patient. And be patient with this old dog because I did not learn the new tricks yet. So we're going to click on open an old form classic. And then I fill this out. So this is Joe Truck for his name. And then all I need is his email address. I don't need anything else. So we're going to put my email address in there, amyt@kw.com. There's no second buyer name, the seller name. Oh, Lordy, where am I going to get that? I got to go back to the listing and I can click on this number right here, the APN. This will take me directly to the tax record. Now I have the seller's name. So I'm going to take Paul Morgan. Now this is their last name first name middle, last name first. So then I'm going to go into my documents. First seller's name is Paul Morgan. I don't need their email. I just need their name on the contract. That's it. So I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to pull this name, Usami, and put it on seller number 2. I got to change it around. Remember, their last name is first on the tax record. There we go. That's all I need for them. I only need buyer name, buyer email. We're using my email because I want to show you guys what it looks like. Look at this beautiful stuff I'd already put in here. I don't even have to fill this out. Now, you don't need all of this stuff that's right here. All you really need to fill out is the purchase price, which we're going to offer $635. The purchase date is today's date. The deposit amount is always at least 1% of purchase price. So that means I'm going to put $6,500. That deposit is due within 3 days and it is credited towards the buyer's either down payment or closing costs. If they don't have either of those, it's given right back to them.
Hey, Amy, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So for the purchase price, you're going to put what we're offering, not the actual list price?
Yeah. If you put the list price, then you're offering them the list price.
Okay, and then for like the deposit amount, we need to let them know like, hey, you need to put this much amount down. Are you comfortable with that before we write the offer, right?
Oh, that should have happened before you ever showed them properties. Yes.
Okay.
That's what getting the proof of funds and the pre-approval up front is, hey, you're going to probably need about 3% in closing costs. And you're also going to need your down payment. And then you got appraisal money, inspection money. So you really need about 7% in the bank. Do you have 7% of the purchase price in the bank? For a 635 house, it's going to look like with this, 40 grand, 40, 50 grand. And if they're like, no, then we have to come up with a plan to either get them down payment assistance or get their closing costs covered or get something figured out.
Okay.
But yeah, they need, especially if I'm showing a property at this price. Whew. Okay, so I have their deposit amount. Remember, 1% of purchase price. And then total amount financed. This is their loan amount. loan amount. Loan amount is purchase price minus their down payment. So let's bring up the calculator. So lucky for us, 635 is still under conventional loan limits, and you can go FHA at 635. So let's say they have a 3.5% down payment. We're going to type in 635 minus 3.5%. That's your loan amount. So then I just copy it and put it in here. Oops, put it in total amount financed. Boom. Oh, it didn't work. Where'd it go? 612775. Okay, done. The rest of this, I just like to make sure that my contact information is all correct. My agent ID, my license numbers are all correct. The seller's agent information is here. Their license number is correct. And the rest, I just leave it alone. So then I hit, oh, sorry. I also put in here that the escrow title company will be seller's choice, that the home warranty will be with Fidelity, National Home Warranty, although I'm starting to think somewhere else might be better. And then Cap City NHD. Now, if I'm writing an offer, I put this in there, but sometimes they'll counter it out. So sometimes it's like, don't even put that in there. I just put them in mine because my friend owns the company and I try to get in business. Okay. So I just throw it in there and it gets countered out all the time, but I don't care. So there you go. So then I hit save. And what this has done for me is that I just did a lot of data entry right in one small space instead of having to look through the offer to find where I need to go. So I find this much easier. You may be quite a bit different, but this is what I do. And then I hit back after that's been saved, and then I go into my purchase agreement. Remember, I use Classic Editor. And here's my purchase package. Now, the purchase agreement is hidden in here. Your purchase package includes your agency disclosure, which lets them know buyer's agent, seller's agent duties. I want to make sure that if I have two buyers, these two boxes are checked. If I don't, that they're checked right. I make sure my contact information is correct. But see how it entered it already for me? Now I don't have to go through and do any data entry. All the information is where I need it. This looks really good. And now I'm here to my offer. So offer date is the 15th. Because I used MLS Connect, all the information was entered here for me, including the APN. All the agent's information is in here. I just need to check the box to say they represent the seller, I represent the buyer. If we both, if they say that it's Robert Mendoza is the listing agent and he's with Keller Williams, then both the buyer and the seller are represented by the same brokerage. So it's a dual agency. If I represent the seller and the buyer, it's a dual agency. So if you and another agent in your brokerage represent either side, it's a dual agency because the broker owns the contract, not you. You're just we're just agents. In fact, I'm like so tempted to get my broker's license because I'm like, I don't want to just be an agent anymore. So the broker actually owns the contract. So that's why it would be like that. But it's not. We are not at the same brokerage. So they represent the seller. I represent the buyer. Now, all this information is entered in the right space for me too. So I don't got to do much. Purchase price, $635. Close of escrow, 30 days, which is pretty common. You need to check with your lender though, to make sure that 30 days is what they want. Because some lenders are like, no, we can do this in 21. Some of them are like, I can close this in a week. So it really depends on what the seller wants, what the buyer wants. We're going to assume this seller and buyer just want to do the 30 days. Deposit amount. Now, the expiration of the offer is automatically within 3 days. So if they don't answer you in 3 days, they let your offer expire. Deposit amount is $6,500. Can you answer this? Thank you. $6,500. Loan amount is right here, and here's their down payment. Now, I want to let you know that the only thing that matters for your real estate contract in terms of like what cannot change without everybody agreeing is the purchase price, close of escrow, deposit amount. The seller, in the grand scheme of things, is not too worried about how much you're putting down. The initial offer, it looks really good when you're putting a lot down, to be honest. But it's between the buyer and the lender. I could go back later and say, you know what? I don't want to put 50 grand down. I only want to put down the minimum. And the lender will do that. And the contract will still go on. Does that make sense? Because it's not like the lender, it's not like the seller's talking with the lender and saying, well, did they put 50 grand down? It really doesn't matter to them. As long as the loan closes and the seller gets their money, they don't care. Now, if the buyer decides that they have no money to put down, then I mean, they can't buy the house. That's another story. But does that make sense? So like the lender's going to say, oh, just put 3.5% down. Or sometimes people are like, well, I want to put 40 grand down. And then later on they decide, well, I don't actually want to put all that down if I don't have to. And that's okay. They don't have to. They just have to put the minimum that the lender requires to close the loan. Okay, so we've got this all filled out. Now, depending upon what kind of loan I'm using, I would come over here and want to check one of these boxes. Now, it defaults to conventional, but we're going to use an FHA loan because we're putting 3.5% down. So when I click on that, it adds in a few other documents to my transaction that I'll need to make sure that I fill out. The next page, seller credit, right here at the top. Seller credit to buyer. My clients wanted 3%. So that means that they wanted 3% of 635. So we're going to say, where's my handy dandy calculator? 635 times 3%, 19,050. Okay, so I'm going to say $19,050. 3%. See? It says seller credit to be applied to closing costs. That's all it needs to say. You don't have to write in seller to credit buyer. You don't. It's already right here. I've actually seen people recently writing in again, seller to credit buyer 1950. I'm like, so if you write it in again, that means you're asking for 2 credits.
What if
Okay,
you wanted to
so-
do a buy down? Where would you add that in at?
You're going to get that verbiage from the lender directly. You do not write that verbiage yourself, and you would put that here in additional finance terms. And that verbiage usually looks something like seller credit will be applied towards 2-1 buy down in the amount of this amount, and the difference will be applied towards recurring and non-recurring closing costs. That does, the buy down information does need to be in here. That's the only time though. That's it. And the lender gives you that because the underwriter needs to see specific wording. Okay. So my clients want a 3% credit. I got it right there. And then the next thing I look for is, look where it says verification all cash, verification down payment and closing costs. See how it says attached to the offer? My clients have to attach it to their offer because the contract defaults to that. And no, I do not turn it in 3 days after. No listing agent is going to accept your offer on your word that your client has money in the bank. They're going to say, okay, send me proof and then we'll accept your offer. So there's no point in even turning it in without it. Unless you're in a huge rush to throw your hat in the ring. Because if you throw in an offer and there's multiple offers, they have to review it. So I always get proof of funds, but like say that I have a client and they just haven't gotten it to me yet, and there's this house that they want to get, and there's multiple offers, and we got to throw our hat in the ring, and I'm pretty confident that my client can get me what they need, then I might forgo my rule. But that's like my best friend in the world. Like it would have to be somebody that I trust hand over fist, because most of the time I have to have it before I turn it in. Okay. Verification of loan application needs to be attached to the offer. And you should specify, is it a pre-approval, a pre-qualification, a pre-approval, or fully underwritten? And you're probably thinking, Amy, what's the difference? A pre-qualification is like when you go online to Rocket Mortgage and you type in all of your information and it spits out a pre-qualification and it says, you have a loan for 500 grand. Does it actually know anything about your credit or your income? If you typed in everything and you said, oh, I make 10 grand a month, my credit's 780, does it actually know, or is it just off of your word?
It's stated.
It's stated. That's beautiful. I'm glad you used that word. It's called stated. That means that it's not verifiable, documented income. So it's a qualification. That means jack to me. In fact, if I got your pre-qualification letter and on your offer, I would say, where's the pre-approval? And we're not going to accept this offer until we were given a pre-approval. And here's why. A pre-approval requires a credit check. It requires documentation such as bank statements, W-2s, 1099s. I mean, all the documentation, bank accounts. What else am I thinking of? Tax returns and a credit check. I'm looking for a pre-approval or fully underwritten pre-approval. The pre-approval letter will look like this. We are willing to guarantee a loan of this amount to this person. We just need to verify income, documents, and credit. If it says we need to verify income, documents, and credit, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. If it says we have verified income, documents, and credit, and we are willing to extend a loan in this amount to this person, you're good to go. You got a pre-approval. If you talk with the lender and they say, I've got desk underwriting approval, that's good. That means that they've put the loan through their computer system and the computer system says, we're good to go on the loan. We just need these items. If they are fully underwritten, that means that underwriting has reviewed the loan ahead of time and has said, here's the conditions that we need in order for you to get loan approval. And the buyer has submitted those conditions. And now all they're waiting for is a house. My lender can close a fully underwritten buyer in less than 16 days. So you can see how when you talk to your buyers, you can say, look, if I can get you fully underwritten with a lender, like fully underwritten, you'll be the most competitive buyer on the block. Because you'll be able to close a loan like that. And sellers love that. Especially this seller. Like if you think back to what we were looking at, the seller needed a rent back, right? The seller's in contract on another property. That means that they need to close on that other property, but they need their money first. So if I can close in 16 days, do you think my offer is going to get picked over somebody that can close in 30? Yeah, because they're like, we need our money. We need our money now. So there's some benefits to having a fully underwritten pre-approval. A lot of agents only work with buyers that are fully underwritten. I'm not that stringent. Pre-approval letter is just fine with me. Okay. So I leave a lot of this the same. Check with the lender and find out how long do you need for loan approval and appraisal contingency. You don't get to pick that. So you don't get to say, oh, we'll get the appraisal done in 5 days. That's not actually up to you. That's up to the lender. It usually takes 14 days. So I always write in 14 for the appraisal. And then for the loan, I always leave it at 17, usually because if they get the appraisal, it has to go through a quality control process before they can actually approve it. So the loan approval can't happen without the appraisal. So I give us an extra couple days. Investigation of property. I always drop this down to 10 days. This information access means that we can access the property for up to 17 days. I like to leave that alone because in case they want to go back and measure, I leave it alone. All of these, seller documents, title report, common interest disclosures, review of leased liened items, this is all 10 days. So 14 days at least for appraisal. I don't think you can get an appraisal faster than 14 days. So just don't try to, unless the lender tells you, yeah. Inspections, you need to get them done within 10 days. Sometimes I like them to be done in 7 days. Just get it over with. So I put 10 days here. I want to be able to view the property though for 17 days, just in case. This is the contingency for the sale of the buyer's property. My buyers don't need to sell a property, so we're going to leave that alone. Time of possession is specifically once the property has recorded. So as soon as the property says, we're on record, meaning that the deed was recorded, you get to go grab those keys and give them to the buyer. We like that. However, I remember that the seller said they needed a rent back. And so I prefer to keep my rent backs to 29 days or less. Here's why. Anything over 30 days creates a tenant-landlord relationship. That means that if you're the buyer of the property, say that I'm buying a property from Robert. Robert's the owner, I'm the buyer. I buy the property, we close escrow, and I tell Robert, you can stay in the property for 30 days. We sign all the documentation for a residential lease after sale. And now what has happened is I, the buyer, have just become Robert's landlord. Robert is no longer responsible for anything that goes wrong with the property. The landlord is. So if the sewer breaks, the landlord's going to take care of it. If anything in the property breaks, the landlord gets to take care of it. That means the buyer. And Robert, the previous owner, is scot-free from responsibility, usually, depends. So I don't like to do that. Rent backs for 30 days or more are very rare for me. I tend to tell my buyers stay away from it, 29 days or less. Now, why 29 days or less? Then all that we're going to be signing is a SIP. That means it's a seller in possession. Now let's talk contract law for seller in possession. A seller in possession is a license to use a property, to remain the seller. So it's seller in possession, not a residential lease. A residential lease means that I am now a tenant. A seller in possession means that I am still the responsible party. So Robert still lives in the property. It's day 15, water heater busts. Guess who's replacing the water heater? Robert, not me. So I think that it's really important to keep my buyers safe from becoming unwanted landlords. Here's the other thing. If Robert is on a SIP or an SIP or a seller in possession, if he tries to squat in the house, like he says, oh, I'm not going anywhere. Well, that's not going to work. I can take my seller in possession with the police and I can get him out when I need him out, right? A residential lease, no dice. Now you're going to eviction court. He can squat in the property. He could live there for as long as it takes you to evict him. So I don't like 30 days or more. You're going to get out into the world of real estate and people are going to be like, well, we want a 60-day rent back. I'm like, why? Why do you need a 60-day rent back? What is the seller doing that they need 60 days from now to get into another property? Are they not even looking? That kind of worries me, right? That would worry me. And I would be really pretty hard on sticking to that 29 days as much as I could. So we're going to give them 29 days for free.
Amy,
Yeah.
question. So when we have our first buyer and they want us to put in an offer, are we new agents? Are we going to do this together, or we'll sit down with you and go over the entire contract?
What I would like you to do is take contracts classes, get yourself familiar with the contract.
Right, I do. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, perfect.
The first time, are me and you gonna sit together and go over this together, or is this something that you want me to fill out first and then send it to you so you could review to make sure I did it right?
What I recommend is that you guys fill them out first and then email it over to me, and then I'll go through it and say, oh, fix this, 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 and this. And then you'll fix it, and then we'll make sure that it's perfect. And then I'll say, okay, send it to your client to sign. And then your client signs it, you get it back, and I'll show you the whole process once we're done writing it.
Okay, cool, understood.
Yeah. Okay, so seller's gonna stay in for 29 days after close of escrow. I'm gonna leave all this the same. I don't do anything here. Items included or excluded, very important. If you want it included, you need to check the box. If you don't check the box, the seller can take it. That would be really sad if you showed up with no stove. Because if you don't check the box and the seller takes it, guess who's going to pay for a new one? the agent. Yeah, you're gonna pay for anyone. Okay, so stove. Now, I don't know if these are included. I probably asked the listing agent. Let's say that all the appliances are included: refrigerator, washer, dryer, dishwasher, the microwave's attached. So I'm definitely gonna say it's included. They are going to give us the Ring doorbell because they don't want to take it with them. So we're going to include the video doorbell. There's no security system. I am going to say I want them to include transfer of Ring doorbell account. I learned this the hard way. Did you know Ring doorbells have an account, and those accounts stick with the Ring doorbell, and you have to transfer it? And if you don't do it within a certain amount of time, it's like a whole mess of a thing. Okay, it's really bad. So I tell my clients, don't accept Ring doorbells, just go buy a new one. Or if you do accept it, you need to put it here in the contract, transfer the dang account before close of escrow. Like as soon as we drop contingencies, I would like that I would really like that transferred. And because it's a part of the contract, the seller's required to follow through with it. And then you'll want to look for anything else on here that is included. If there's excluded items, so maybe there was a bunch of a shelving unit or a Murphy's bed. A Murphy's bed was one of them that I had that had to be excluded. They had to take it off of the wall and patch it all up and all that good stuff. But so that's everything that's included. Natural hazard zone disclosure. The seller always pays. It's an environmental disclosure. And I put in here that they can get it for $90 through Cap City NHD. The reason I put that in there is because most of the companies charge $99, and I can get the sellers to do it. And it's my friend's company. So I try to shoot them a bone, throw them a bone. If you don't want to put that in there, put in seller's choice. That's my favorite response. Smoke alarms, CO2 detectors, water heater bracing. The seller is responsible for that. Don't ever check Q5 or Q6. These are government required point of sale inspections and reports. It's always going to get countered out, so just don't check it. Escrow fee is split both 50-50 in usual circumstances. I let the seller pick the escrow company. I don't care. Owner's title policy is paid by the seller. If it's a competitive situation, you could have both the buyer and the seller split it, or you could have the buyer pay for it, but the buyer already pays for the lender policy. So it's a lot of money. It's $1,200. City and county transfer taxes. I always say that the seller pays for those, but again, those are negotiable. So the buyer could pay if they're in a multiple offer situation. There's no HOA on this property, but if it was, I would make the HOA pay. I would make the seller pay the HOA fees. And then the last thing I do is I always include a home warranty. I ask the seller to pay for it. I like my seller to get platinum protection. I think it costs $780 from Fidelity and National Home Warranty. And that's the offer. Everything else is mumbo jumbo. So then I hit save. And I'm going to go back because they added these little documents in that I need to look over. So here's the FBAC. Now the FBAC is the FHA VA amendatory clause, and it basically says if the home does not appraise for the purchase price that you've offered, the buyer is not obligated to move forward. In fact, we could literally remove our appraisal contingency. The house could appraise for $1,000 less than our purchase price of $635, and my buyer would not have to move forward. It is a federal law that FHA and VA buyers do not have to move forward or cover any difference in appraised value versus purchase price, even if they say that they will in the contract. I have had a buyer that we have said, we will remove our appraisal contingency. We will cover $20,000 difference in appraised value. We said that in a contract, wrote it all out, everybody signed. The house didn't appraise. My buyer said, I don't want to move forward. And I said, well, I have to check with my broker and the lender because it kind of says that you will move forward and that you'll pay up to $20,000 difference. And they said, I don't want to anymore. I said, okay, let me check. And sure enough, because of this document, they did not have to. The listing agent was very upset. And I can understand why, but then I also can't because they just needed to read this document. So you put the date of the offer in here. You put the purchase price amount right here. And this is your FHA VA protection, appraisal protection for your buyer.
So Amy, if you're writing one of these under the appraisal contingency, could you just refer to this document instead of leaving it blank? If it's an FHA loan,
Instead of leaving what blank?
on the original purchase agreement where you have your contingency.
The appraisal contingency isn't blank. Hold on one second. I'll put it in here. Where's the appraisal? Appraisal contingency is not blank. Oh, this? No, you can't write anything in here but a price.
Okay,
So what this says is appraisal contingency based upon appraised value at a minimum of purchase price, or, and then you can put in like, maybe you want to say, okay, I'm going to offer you $635, but I will automatically move forward with the property as long as it appraises for purchase price or $650 or $620. And then you have to make sure that your buyer has the $15K in the bank, plus the down payment, plus the closing costs to cover that difference. So then you would write in that you're going to pay either $635 or $620.
so this form doesn't say that it's superseded by the FHA.
It does right here.
requirement.
Removal of appraisal contingency does not eliminate appraisal cancellation rights in FBAC.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, I'm going to save this. I did the FBAC. I put in my date of offer, purchase price. And then I'm going to go to the seller license to remain in possession. So again, at the very top, this is an addendum to the purchase agreement. Yes, it is dated today's date. Term number 1 says seller is granted a license to remain in possession of the property for calendar date. So we said 29. Or you can take a specific date as long as it's less than 29 days or less. In consideration for seller agreeing to sell the buyer and the buyer agreeing to allow the seller to remain in possession after close of escrow, seller agrees to pay the buyer a non-refundable license fee. This is if you want the seller to pay an amount for it. So sometimes people will say, my mortgage payment is going to be $3,000. I'm going to divide that by 30. That's $10 a day. I'm probably wrong about that, but it's $10 a day. And I want $10 a day. So then you would put in $10 per day. It's probably more than that, but whatever. $100 a day. I don't know. It's $100. So $100 a day. Most sellers are going to be like, dang, that's a lot of money. And they probably would be like, never mind, we'll stay somewhere else. Or you can say a certain amount. So sometimes I would say, yeah, just pay us like $1,000 and we'll call it square. Instead, I'm going to give it to them for nothing because we're going to try to get that closing cost credit. And so we're going to give it to them for nothing. So there's no late charges that we need. There can be either a consideration or you can hold a deposit. So I might be giving them the month for free, but just in case, I'm going to have them hold a deposit for $1,500 in escrow. Why would I do that? Well, I don't know if the seller is going to take care of the property. What if I close escrow on the property and the seller trashes the place and then moves out? And I take possession and my house is trashed. Or maybe it's not even trashed. Maybe it's like you found a hole. There's a hole in the wall. They move their stuff. There's a hole in the wall. They broke something. What have you? You can then do a final walkthrough right after they leave. And you can go back and say, well, I have all these pictures of all this trash left at my house. It's going to cost me $500 to do this dump run. I'm not giving you back the $1,000. I want to keep 500. You keep 1,000. And then escrow, you can negotiate it, and then you guys can split it, or you can try to keep the whole thing. Whatever. So sometimes I like to keep a deposit. Now here's how I judge it. You've been in the house. How do the sellers live? Do they live clean? Is the house in immaculate condition all the time? Do they look like they care about the place? If they do, you probably don't need a deposit. You're probably going to be just fine. But if you notice that they don't really care about the place, they aren't keeping it up and stuff like that, I would put a deposit in place. They will make sure that they get all their stuff out because otherwise they're going to lose money. So sometimes you need to put a little bit of barrier in there. This house looked really clean. We think everybody's going to be on the up and up, so we're not going to do that. Seller agrees to pay for all utilities and related services and the following charges, except, okay, water, sewer, garbage. Why? Those things automatically transfer with the deed. The seller is not going to pay for their utilities, those utilities while they live there. They can't, unless you want them to write you a check, which is really, it gets too complicated in that sense. So I always let the buyers know during that 30 days, the water, sewer, and garbage, that's on you. And they're like, okay, that's fine. Seller shall provide keys and other necessary items to access the property as required in the agreement at close of escrow or at the end of the term of the seller license. I want keys at close of escrow. I want to be able to access that property. If you don't take the keys from the seller and you just let your seller a license to the property and you have no keys to get in, then how are you going to get them out if they decide to stay? And like, I know people are always, it's so rare that things like this happen, but I'm always thinking in that kind of like black hat, like, well, what could go wrong? So I'm like, no, I'm going to come get the keys out of the lockbox. I'm going to give them to my buyer. My buyer's going to have the keys. If they want to get into this property, they're coming into the property, right? There's a lot of stuff in here, so you'll want to read it, but basically the seller needs to keep insurance on the property. The seller is ultimately responsible for the property for those 29 days, which is great because it takes a lot of liability off the buyer. Okay, so I'm all done with this. So right now I've got my purchase agreement, my FVAC, my seller license to remain in possession. This is what I need to send the buyer to sign, so I'm ready to sign it. Now I use DocuSign. You all have a free DocuSign account. If you haven't already, go into your profile and settings and attach your DocuSign account to Sitforms. Vince, our tech trainer, probably did a lot of that for you, but if he hasn't, or if he showed you how, if he hasn't yet, then you're going to want to make sure that you do that ahead of time. You can do it in the middle of writing the offer, but it's easier when you do it ahead of time. So I hit e-sign. I use DocuSign, new e-sign. I use DocuSign, so I always pick this one. I'm going to pick my RPA, FVAC, and SIP. If I need to add in the pre-approval letter or proof of funds and I want to make it one big PDF, I can just hit external documents and go find their pre-approval. Let's see if I have a pre-approval letter. I can show you what it looks like. I do. I'll just use this one. I can't open anything. This is so silly.
Excuse me, teacher. Why would
Sorry?
we use, I said, excuse me, teacher. Hey,
Yes.
why would we use DocuSign rather than that AccuSign, the new AccuSign thing?
What's AccuSign?
I'm sorry, I'm probably not saying the name right.
The one that they get, because it stinks. It's terrible. It's not user friendly. It's not good for your clients. You get a free DocuSign account, and DocuSign is the #1 signing service in for a reason. It's like so easy to use. Also, the signing system in here, you cannot fix it. So if you make a mistake, you can't go in there and fix it. You have to start all over again. DocuSign, you can go in and fix it in your DocuSign account.
Okay.
So I like DocuSign. And
I
I'll
already
show
made
you.
I already made a listing agreement with that other one though. So I guess I'll have to
Okay.
change it. No problem. Thank you.
It's up to you. It's completely up to you. I use DocuSign. Okay, so I'm not going to add in an external document. It's giving me a hard time. I think it's my computer. So I select DocuSign right here. You can either use digital ink or you can use DocuSign. The other thing I don't like about digital ink is it makes my clients do a two-way authentication certification. And The reason I started using, I was so excited when they gave us a free DocuSign account is because of how pissed off my clients would get with the other service. And I would get like, they would be like, this is stupid. I authorized myself. I don't want to do this. And I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. Like, let me just, so the DocuSign account doesn't make them pick an account. It doesn't make them, it just, if you put their information in, it trusts that they're able to sign it. And so I like to make things easier on my clients. So I select DocuSign and then I hit next. Then because I entered their email address in the buyer, remember when I did the cover sheet? The cover sheet was strictly for this email address and data entry purposes. Literally the only reason I use it, because it's much easier, right? So I picked Joe because he's the buyer and myself because I'm the agent. I don't pick the listing agent. Whatever you do, do not send a listing agent an offer through DocuSign. One, they probably won't ever see it because it'll go into a separate place in their email. It might go to spam and it's just not a good look. You are going to want to send it to your buyer to sign, download the PDF, and I'll show you guys what to do. All right, so I picked Joe and me. It doesn't matter when they sign. It doesn't matter if they sign before you. It doesn't matter. You can sign it first. They can sign it first. It's not a big deal. So I'm gonna hit next. The beauty of this is that it is going to talk with DocuSign and it's going to put all of the signatures already in place for you so that you don't have to really do much. I can write an offer in like 2 minutes because all I really need are the little details like purchase price and down payment and all that. So you can see that it's already placed the signatures for Joe and the signatures for me all the way through it. You can see they're all placed right here. So there's really not much for me to do except for to hit send. I call my client and I say, hey, Joe, I just want to or I shoot him a text. There's a lot of texting and not a lot of calling. So I text my client, hey, I just sent you the offer. Whenever you sign it, I will submit it to the listing agent. I don't pressure them. I don't blow them up about it. I don't tell the listing agent, I have an offer on the way. I don't. I just say, I sent the client the offer to sign. I'll let you know as soon as I have it and I'm going to submit it, right? So this is what it looks like when it comes to me. And sorry, I never checked the chat. The class will be recorded. Yes, I'm recording this class. Okay, so we're done with zip forms. Now I'm going to go to my email and hit refresh. Okay, so here's my Amy Tremayne. Amy Tremayne has asked Joe Truck to sign. So this is what my client receives. Now I could have gone in and changed the message and all of that, but I don't. They know what I'm sending them. I don't know. I just don't go in there and do all that. But sometimes. So I send it to them and we've already discussed all the terms. I've discussed the terms with my client. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put this much. I'm going to write it for this amount. We're going to put this much down. Inspections, we're going to take about 10 days. Lender's going to get the appraisal in 14 days, probably get loan approval around 17. Honestly, your client don't care. Most of my clients are like, do I need to write this down? And I'm like, no, don't ever write. No, I will take care of everything for you. I just want you to know what you're going to see on the offer. And they're like, okay, fine. And this is how I know that they don't care is because they sign the offer like that. It's like they never even took time to read it. So just keep that in mind. So I hit start and this is what a client would do. They're going to sign. They're going to pick a signature or they can write their own. Most of the time they just pick one. And it's going to tell, now they can scroll through this and I tell them that I'm like, you can look through it. You don't have to just follow it. You can look through it and say, oh, I want to see what this says. Okay. So they'll sign and then it'll tell them to sign there, but they can scroll up and say, okay, what are they offering? Initial deposit amount, all of that. But they're going to initial each page. Oh, they got to initial this one. And this one, and this one. They're going to sign here. There's a lot. Okay, so they've signed everything and then they hit finish. And then I just got a notification on my phone. My DocuSign says, no thanks, go like this. So now I've gotten my section and it says Amy Tremayne. Amy Tremayne sent you something to sign. So I'm going to review my documents. This is me signing as the agent. So I'm going to hit start, sign, 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 finish. That's how quickly they can get done with that. Now, I want to show you something. Oh, I got out as it follows. Okay. So what's going to happen next is that you're going to get an email that says everything is complete any minute now. There it is. Here's my DocuSign. It's got all of the documents there, but they're all in 3 different things, and I don't want it like that. So what I do is I log into DocuSign. And I look at my recently completed documents. And the Joe Truck offer is right up top. So I click on that. And I like to download it in one PDF. So I click combine into PDFs and I download. What is happening here? That's probably why it's not letting me look at anything. Download. There we go. Is this going to work? Oh, thank God. I was getting worried about that. Okay. So here's the PDF of the offer. It's all signed by everybody. Oh, it signed me as Amy Tremayne. I forgot to change the name, but it's all signed, right? Joe, we'll pretend Joe signed it. Everything's here. So I have this. I'm going to download it to my computer. And I'm going to name it the address of the property. So let's get the address. Let's get the address. 3020 Mills, like Sierra Mills. So I'm going to copy that, download. Offer. Okay, so I've got my offer downloaded. I really need to come up with an email so that I can email this over to the listing agent, right? So I need to get the listing agent's information. So I'll have to go back to the listing because I exited out of that. So I'm logging into MLS. Read later. Continue. Now, I can either put the address in here if I want, or you can go over to searches and you can go recent searches. And you can even find all your recent searches. Look, that was here's the map search I did with the comps. So I'm going to go map search with comps. There's my property. There it is. Okay. Let's get his email. Copy email address. And let's get this guy an email. So Donovan, I would call him by now and I would say, hey man, I got an offer coming over for you. I'm going to send it to you shortly. And then I'm going to put the address. Oh, that's his email. I'm going to take the property address. Always put the property address in the subject line so they can find it. Offer truck is the last name. And then in the Ignite toolkit. So let's go there. Ignite toolkit. I got everything for you guys. I'm pretty proud of this thing. In the Ignite toolkit, in working with buyers, there's an offer email template. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to put it in here. And it says, hello, my buyers, well, it's just one buyer, loves this property. It is their first home purchase, and this is the perfect house for them. I have attached the following items for your seller's consideration in PDF. Buyer pre-approval letter, buyer's offer. I always like to put in here proof of funds, and the buyer's offer. And then I say, so make sure it's all formatted, right? And then I like to say my buyer is working with this lender. So I put, let's say they're working with my preferred lender, Brianna Waters. I put their name in here. I say, please feel free to contact her at this number. And then I say, I CC'd her on this email. I used to include my transaction coordinator because I only worked with one person before. So I used to include them on my offers, but I don't do that anymore. So I'll take that off. And then I detail the offer details here. So we are looking at 635. Deposit was 6,500. Close of escrow was 30 days. Inspection was 10. Loan contingency was 17. Appraisal contingency was 14 days. Escrow fees were split by the buyer and seller. Home warranty was paid by the seller. And we have the seller to cover up to 3% of buyer's recurring and non-recurring closing costs. Please confirm receipt of this email and its attachments. So then I would attach the offer. And then now I need to find my buyer's pre-approval letter. So I want to show you guys what a pre-approval letter looks like. So pre-approval letter. Here we go. Here's a pre-approval letter. This was a federal credit union. I didn't actually like this very much because federal credit unions, in my eyes, I'm like, oh man, it's a credit union. I'm going to have to go, like, they're never going to answer the phone. It's never going to be on time. That's what people think. When I see a Chase Bank, US Bank, credit union, if I see anything other than mortgage lender, mortgage broker, I start thinking this doesn't look good. And I tell my client that, hey, I just want to let you know, most listing agents don't like to see these kinds of pre-approval letters because a credit union is open Monday through Friday until 5 p.m. But my lender's open 7 days a week. And my lender knows all the loopholes to get the loan to the end. And the credit union is so highly regulated that they're not trying to try any loophole to get it to the end. So I think that it would be better if you would use a local lender. You don't have to use my local lender. I don't care who you use, but it should be local. So let's try to find one from Brianna Waters. Okay, here we go. Did I get a pre-approval letter from them? Okay. There we go. Okay, so here's how my lender does it. She sends out a pre-approval letter. It looks like this. It says, please be advised the above referenced client Kiefer has applied for FHA mortgage with Capital Direct Lending. Based on the information received to date, he is approved for this purchase price. Subject property to be determined. Financing, FHA 30-year fixed. All that we need is the purchase contract, appraisal of the home, escrow instructions, loan amount, and HUD county limits. So it doesn't say on here, I need to run a credit report, I need to gather documents. She's done all that. She's done all that. Now, we would have to pretend that this was a 650 pre-approval, but this is what it looks like. So I would download the pre-approval and I would want to include that in my offer. And then let's look at proof of funds. Proof of funds can look like this. I don't know if I can rotate this at all. I can't. But this is a, see how they didn't even block out the account numbers? In today's world, and this is what I tell my clients when they're like, well, I don't want to send my bank account over the email. And I'm like, just so you know, everybody already has your bank account information. It's already been sold back and forth on the black market so much that it's probably going to be just fine. So if they want to, though, I tell them you are more within your right to block out any information that you want to, except your name, the company name, and the amounts that are in the accounts. Because I really need to see that you've got a lot of money in the bank, right? I need to see at least the down payment, right? That's a pre-approval. Let's see, that's a proof of funds. Proof of funds. Chase bank account, proof of funds. See, they blacked out their account number. See, blacked out their account number. Okay, so then I would download that. I would include the pre-approval letter, the proof of funds, open it up, and then I would hit the send button. I'm not going to send it because, right, it's not a real offer, but that's what I would send to the agent. So let's send it to me. So I would send this off. And then I would call my buyer and I would say, all right, I just sent the offer. I just want to let you know, as soon as I hear back from them, I will let them know it actually expires in 3 days. So we have to give them at least 3 days. And then they'll say, okay, great. And I'll say, do you want to look at other property? Like, how can I help you? A lot of people are like, no, we'll just wait for the response. Okay. So then I reach out to the listing agent, of course, and I text them and I say, hey, I got an offer in your inbox. Let me know what you think. Right? If I don't get an answer back from them in 24 hours, I'm like, did you get my offer? Like, did you see what I sent you? Just be persistent and follow up. And then you wait. Then we wait, right? But that's basically how you submit an offer. Before I move on to how do you accept an offer or receive an offer, does anybody have any questions on submitting an offer?
I do.
Okay.
So is it a full 72 hours that it will expire, or is it just by the third date that the third day it expires? Do we get a full 72 hours?
It actually says it in the contract. So one condition that I learned is that I always go back to the contract whenever. So it's a great question. I always go back to the contract, always, because it will tell me. So if we go to the expiration on the contract, which you should be looking at the contract right now. Yeah. If we go to the expiration, which is on the first page, it says 3 calendar days after buyer's signatures or a specific date at 5 p.m. So if I send it to him today, if I send it to them today, here's my calendar. They have 1, 2, 3 at 5 p.m. This offer would expire on the 18th at 5 p.m.
Okay, cool.
Now, an expiration doesn't actually matter. The buyer could say, well, I don't care that it expired. If they want to accept it, we can move forward and then you're good to go. But if they're like, no, they didn't accept my offer in time, we're done. Then you're done and the buyer can move on. Okay, so let's go ahead and accept an offer. So here's me. I'm now the listing agent of Sierra Mills. I have an offer in my inbox. So first thing I do is open it up and I read the entire email. Now, this does not come naturally to me. I am a very let me look at the offer first, but it's really important for you to see this because there's been pieces that I have missed before. And so I read all of my emails now. So I would read this and I would say, all right, they have pre-approval, proof of funds, buyer's offer. Do they have that? Offer, pre-approval, proof of funds. Okay, cool. Buyers working with preferred lender, Brewana Waters. Phone number. Okay, cool. Offer price, deposit, escrow, inspections, 3% credit. Okay. So then I would look at proof of funds first. They have money in the bank. I like that. Pre-approval letter. I'm going to pretend that it says 650. Pre-approval letter looks good. And then I would look at the offer. I look to see if it's complete. So you guys, when you're submitting an offer, I love looking at your faces. So it's really hard for me to not have you on screen here. If I receive an offer and this box isn't checked and my license number is missing, well, this is the buyer information, but that box isn't checked as a number one red flag. And it's not really a red flag in the sense that I'm ooh, this is terrible. It's just, I notice things like that. I'm okay, this person doesn't pay attention to details. And then I look further and I look for my information. If the seller's name is gone, if my information, like the listing agent's information is gone, I'm like, this is not a complete offer. So I just pay attention to that. And I note to myself that the agent on the other end is a little haphazard. So for you guys out there in the world writing offers, make sure that you take these things into consideration and know that if you want to get on the good side of the listing agent, which we all do, you know, we have to work with these people all the time, then you're going to want to make sure that you're filling it out all the way. Put the seller's name in there, make it easier on them. And then I go straight to the meat and potatoes, which is, did they check these boxes? That's another red flag. If I see that these boxes aren't checked, I'm like, okay, gosh. And I will send an offer back. If the offer is too empty for me, then I will say, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm going to need you to get with your broker and resubmit this for me. I've only had to do that a couple times. And I only did that because we only had that offer. In a multiple offer situation, and this is why this is important. In a multiple offer situation where I have 5 offers and all of them are around the same price, and I get an offer that's incomplete, I will ignore that offer. Meaning that I will tell the seller, we're not playing this game with them. We got 4 other offers and they're all complete and they're all around the same price. So if you want to be a competitive agent that gets your offers accepted over others, just make sure that you're filling them out completely. And like, I'm so glad Robert brought up, like, what's that procedure look like? The reason that we don't get together and sit down and go the offer line by line is that sometimes you don't have that time. Sometimes you need to submit the offer, right? And we don't want to wait until we can both get together and sit down. Now, if you're having trouble writing the offer and you're really lost and you need my help, of course, we're going to hop on a Zoom. We're going to get it written out. I'm going to help you out. But I like to kind of push you guys to try it yourself first, because you never know. I mean, Ariel might be on this call. Dang, Ariel was like doubting herself so hard, and she sent me the offer, and it was literally almost perfect. So I think that sometimes we get in our heads and we're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but then we can surprise ourselves. So I like to test. So I might test you a little bit and say, go ahead and fill it out and then show it to me. So now I'm the listing agent looking at this and I'm like, wow, this is a really clean offer. Asking price, good deposit, loan amount, FHA, that's fine. The house is very clean, so I don't have a problem with that. Ooh, they want a $20,000 credit. Well, house has been on the market for 24 days. My seller better be okay with that. So I got to make sure I tell the seller about that. They gave me all their funds, all the funds I needed to know about. 14-day appraisal is pretty standard. 10 days for inspection looks great. Oh, they're going to give my seller a 29-day rent back. Okay, cool. They want all this stuff. This is all pretty standard. Now, when I say it's pretty standard, I mean, you're going to see this repeated on a lot of offers. It's all pretty much how we write them. And then they want the home warranty. Okay, cool. So basically what I'm gathering is that my seller is going to get, let's see, 635 minus 20 minus 90, or let's say $100 minus the escrow fee, which is like $1,000 split in half, minus this, minus that, right? So I'm like, okay, I can kind of talk to my seller about this. You can also, when I get an offer like this, I go to my escrow company. I use Old Republic Title. So I go to Old Republic Title Net Sheets. This is my favorite. I can come in here and I can take this offer that I have and I can make a net sheet for my seller in like 2 minutes. So I could say the seller is Umashi. Sorry, I wrote it wrong, but I could put the address in here. So let's see. 3020 Sierra Mills Lane. So I'm gonna go 3020 Sierra Mills Lane. City is, oh no, Sacramento 95864. Okay. City is Sacramento. Zip code is 95864. Sales price is $635. Property in REO? No. Seller's a US citizen? Yes. Is the property the principal residence of the seller? Yes. The closing date is 30 days from now. Oh wait, sorry, it would be probably the 15th. Credit to buyer. They did want a credit. So let's go here. Let's look for the credit. 1905. So I'll go back to here. I'll go 19050. Home warranty. Didn't they want a home warranty? Yep. So let me go back in here. Home warranty was 800. Existing primary mortgage. I would have gotten that from my seller when I listed the property. I'm going to say they owe 200 grand. Existing interest, their interest rate, let's say 3.5% to be safe. Prepayment penalty doesn't exist. They don't have a secondary mortgage. Sales commission, I charge 6%. The splits are 3.5% to me, 2.5% to them. Annual property taxes. I usually quote about 1.3% on property taxes if they do not have Melrose. If they have Melrose, it's probably about 2%. But this is a standard home, no Melrose, 1.3%. The seller already paid their January taxes. There's no homeowners association. What other type of credit is on here? Let's see. So the only other credit that the seller has to pay that I don't see on here is that danged NHD report that I keep talking about. So I'm going to write in CAP, city, and HD. Or if you don't want to do that, you can say natural hazard disclosure. Now it's only $90 if they go through my friend's company, which is John Bernardo, your team leader. And then I put my name on here and I hit calculate. It's going to calculate for me what is their credit and then what are their debits and then how much money are they going to walk away with. I love to be able to provide this to my seller. So I go over here and I kind of look at things. There's some things I could change. So homeowner's title policy, the seller's going to pay $1,900 for a homeowner's title policy. Escrow fee is a total of $1,300, but the seller's going to pay half. What else? Recording fees is usually $150, but it only has a 0 here. So I look at that and I change this because I want, oh, the buyer pays the recording fee. Never mind. City transfer tax, county transfer tax. Okay, so this is an estimate. So then the next thing I can do is click save as PDF. And now I have this to give to them. So I've got that downloaded. So what I would do is I would forward all of these documents directly to my seller. Of course, I take out everything that the listing that the buyer's agent put in there, maybe except for these terms, because I can use those terms. But I would take all of this out and I would say, hello, Mr. Seller. I have received our first offer. The documents are attached along with a seller net sheet, which will detail your costs and how much this offer is estimated to bring in a net, I don't like the way I'm talking. We'll detail your closing costs and the final estimated net to you. That's simple. So then I would put all these together and then I would say, please let me know when you have time to review. And then I would send it. And then I would wait for the seller to review it with me. And then me and the seller would get on the phone and they would say, I hate it. I'm just kidding. They would say, I love it. It sounds like a great offer. Amy, what do you think? And I'm like, well, I mean, we've been on the market for 24 days. We could totally go back on them and say no to the credit. We can reduce the credit. We can do whatever you want. In this instance, I love playing hardball. I always tell my clients this because clients want somebody who can do better than they can. And if your client plays hardball and you don't, they're not going to want to work with you. So I play hardball. Like I'm always trying to get my clients the best. So I would say, you know, I mean, if I wanted to play hardball, I'd probably go back and say, I'll give you a $10,000 credit. I mean, based off their proof of funds, they have money in the bank, you know, so I would kind of talk to them about what are their options. Well, you can say yes, you can say no, you can counter, we can remove the credit, and then I would go from there. A lot of times the seller's like, I'm tired of it being on the market, let's just sell it, right? And they're like, let's just move forward. And then sometimes they're savvy and they're like, no, I don't want to pay that credit. I know the market's picking up, I want to do this. And then you can say, okay, let's counter. So if they wanted to accept it, so let's say that they want to accept it. I got 4 minutes. Then I would take this document and I would upload it into my DocuSign account. And I would say, okay, I'm going to send it for you to sign. This is the hardest part. And it's the easiest. This is one of the easiest jobs. But when you have to upload the listing or the purchase agreement for the seller to sign, you have to place all the signatures. Zip forms will use DocuSign to place the signatures for you on original created documents in zip forms. It will not do that for you if you upload documents into zip forms, right? Or into DocuSign. I go to my DocuSign account directly. I don't go back into zip forms. It's playing middleman. So I'm going to send an envelope to sign. And I'm going to include my documents. So let's get this offer. I also like the seller to sign the pre-approval and I'll put it all in here. I put my seller's name. I put my name because I'm the listing agent. Let's put the offer. No, let's put those first and then let's hit next. Edit receipts. Oh, we can just hit merge. It's fine. It's like you're the same person, just sign it all. Okay, so then what I do is I want my seller to acknowledge that they saw the proof of funds. So I put an initial here. I want my seller to acknowledge that they saw all the proof of funds. So we got an initial there. We got an initial here. We got an initial on this one. I want them to approve the pre-approval, so I'll put an initial there. And then now I need them to sign the documents. So there's nothing for them to sign here. It'll say seller. Nothing here. Nothing on this page. There it is, seller. So then I would put signature. And I would find the other seller if there's another seller. I'm kind of going, you know, I'm kind of fudging it right now. So I put both seller signatures, both dates to sign. And then I would go on to the next. Same thing, signature, seller, date signed. You can toggle between who's the recipients up here. You need the agent signature. And then you would go through this entire thing. Signature, blah, date, blah, signature, blah, date, blah, okay? So once you get this whole thing with all the signatures, initials, right? Initial all the way down. I mean, and every page has an initial. Then you would send it to your seller to sign. As soon as the seller signs it, then you would send it to the listing agent like this. And I think I have one for Freedom Lake. Where's it at? Here we go. So as the listing agent, I send the offer to the buyer's agent, the buyer's lender, every transaction coordinator that I know about, and the escrow office. And I send it like this. I say, hello, everyone, with address and new escrow. Looking forward to a quick, smooth close. I've attached the counter offer and the RPA here. I've included escrow, both TCs. I have the seller filling out blah, blah, blah. And then so I put it here. And then usually my transaction coordinator will take over, escrow will take over, everybody will take over and start doing their job. Okay. I have to go pick up my child now, but I'd like to know from you guys, any other questions for me?
I have one.
Yes.
When the seller counter offers, do you
Mhm.
ditch the original contract in the packet out of the package? Okay, it stays.
No. Because the counter offer is a counter to that original contract. You need the original contract because they're not going to counter every item. They're
Okay,
probably only going to counter a few items, right? So you still need the offer to give you all of the rest of the details, and the counter is going to be like one or two things.
thank you.
Check your email. That's what Melinda said. For that 30, 60, 90. Yeah, we fixed your 30, 60, 90.
Thanks, homegirl.
She is my homegirl. Okay, what else? Anything else?
Amy, the 3.5 and the 2.5 split, that is going to be determined when you meet with the seller, right? Or
Yeah, that's negotiable. That's not like, that's just what I do.
and
I
then when
charge
you're,
6%.
okay, and then when you're on the other end and you're a buyer, and they see that you're only offering 2.5 and you're keeping the other 3.5, does that ever become an issue when it's not like straight down the line at 3 and 3?
They don't see it. And if it was an issue for them, then that's their issue, not mine. I take 3.5% because I have to buy pictures, I have to buy marketing, I have to buy a sign, I have to buy a lockbox, I have to put it on the market and pay for all the advertising costs, and all the buyer's agent has to do is drive up and write an offer. Not like that's not hard work, I'm not saying that, but I do put a lot of stuff into my listings, and I charge 6%, but I do not offer 3% on the other end. I take the extra 1% so that I can reimburse myself for all the costs that went into marketing the property. But that's also why buyer's agents don't really see what my fee is. They only see what I'm offering to them. So they would never really know. If they found out later on, like they saw the settlement statement and they're like, oh, why'd you only give I've never ever had that happen in 8 years. But if anybody did, I would be like, mind your business.
Okay, cool.
Get a listing and charge 6%, and then you could do it too. All right, any other questions for me, guys? That's it. All right, cool. Well, if you need me, you can call me anytime. I think that tomorrow class is going to be taught by Nicole Davidson, which is very exciting. If you need anything from me, I'll be here for you. Just give me a call or a text.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.